the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a best-selling author and, of course, a debut author as well, and the author of the book Don't Bounce Back, Rebuild Forward, none other than Miss Andrea Gash.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Gash, and this is my first book. I talk a lot about script breaks, which are those moments in life that divide our life into a before and an after, and sort of talk about my rebuilding journey and how I've gotten through several difficult script breaks in my life. And I'm also a keynote speaker, and I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom today. Wow. Miss Andrea, thank you. So my first question is, why is the pressure to get back to normal after crisis actually counterproductive to genuine healing?
Well, society tells us to bounce back after something happens. Last January, my mother in law passed away in my arms after I gave her CPR, and I was allowed 3 days of bereavement. So, 3 days to plan a funeral and invite everyone and write the thank you notes and take care of her affairs, and then be back to normal and be back to work, just doing all of your tasks and being that productive employee that everyone expects you to be. But what happens is when we just keep stuffing all that down over and over again, we're not healing from it. And someday we're going to have to. It's going to all bubble up in the surface, which is really what happened to me.
So, Miss Andrea, the title suggests that life breaks the script. We have written over ourselves what script of career path, relationship, timelines, or definition of success are we most attached to? And why is it letting them go so terrifying?
Well, we're most attached to the dream that we've all been taught, which is you go to college, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, you have that white picket fence. And so a lot of us have a version of that dream that we spend our life working towards. But what happens is a script break is when your life doesn't go as planned. And maybe it is the loss of that dream because your life is completely different than the dream that you had for yourself. Or perhaps you thought you would have a certain identity, but then that identity breaks with things that happen in life. So when those things happen, because society has taught us that that is what we do, that should be our plan in life, it can be really difficult for people to move on and move on from those dreams that are broken. Oh, I can't hear you.
What if the crack in your foundation is not a flaw, but the exact place where the light gets in? How does reframing our deepest wounds as sources of strength change the way we through suffering?
Yes. Well, I talk a lot about different kinds of script breaks in this book, whether it be a job loss, maybe it's a death or divorce, the loss of a dream, the life you imagined, also those little hidden griefs that we sort of aren't encouraged to talk about in society, like anticipatory grief, the grief of an identity loss, or loss of belonging or connection. And all of those things crack our foundation wide open. And they crack it just a little bit to where all that self doubt and we have to feel like we have to overcome that and bounce back really sort of seeps into us. So we feel like when we have a script break, we don't want to show the world that we've had any kind of crack in our foundation. We want to show the world that we're on top of it. We're smiling, we're happy. If someone asks us how we are, we say we're fine, no matter what's going on, because we never want to show that we have any kind of cracks or anything's really getting to us. So we do that not only in our personal lives, but we certainly do it at work. Where is if someone, for instance, has a parent that passes away, we sort of walk by and give that obligatory, like, I'm so sorry for your loss, pat on the shoulder, and then we move on. We don't allow people to actually feel what they're feeling or call it like it is and say, I'm so sorry that happened. It's terrible. I'm here if you need me. Instead, we just sort of pass everything on. And in time, those cracks to our foundation are just going to grow and grow. If we don't attend to them, it's going to become a real problem.
Very well said. Miss Andrea, you challenge the idea that resilience means toughing it out alone. What could change in our culture if we define resilience as courage to ask for help rather than the ability to endure in silence?
Yes, asking for help is absolutely resilience. And we have really just got to reframe how resilience is looked at in our society. One of the things I talk about in the book is the momentum method. And the first step of the momentum method is to call it like it is. And calling it like it is means don't sugarcoat how you're feeling. So you're allowed to say about whatever your situation is that it's unfair, that it's cruel, that it's exhausting. And we're sort of conditioned that we don't use those words because we don't want to look like, if we're saying those makes us look not resilient. And we want to look resilient. We want to look like, okay, well, I'm getting through everything. Everything is fine. Just, took a little hit and keep on going. But if we allowed ourselves to call it like it is, to actually step one is hit reset, which is where you actually pause long enough to actually understand what is your script break that you're facing, what is actually compiling on you, what is it that's weighing you down. Then I think that that would allow you to maybe reach out for help or see what resources might be necessary for you.
Indeed, the phrase reclaim your power implies that crisis is still something from us. What exactly is stolen control, identity, safety, hope, and how do we begin to take it back?
I think that the power that it takes is when we're facing something really difficult. For me, by the time I was 40, I had lost my biological parents. My adoptive parents had passed away. My father-in-law had passed away. I had battled infertility for years, and my husband, I married a man with a progressive disability. So I had a lot of script breaks that I just kept telling myself that I could bounce back from and I could get back to who I was before those script breaks happened. In my mind, that was always something that was really important, get back to who I was before. But one thing that we have to learn to define is taking your power means not going back to who you were before, but rebuilding your life from who you are now. Because whatever's happened, whatever the script break is, you are different. You are not the person that you were before that happened. And that's okay. And a lot of us just spend time thinking, well, if I could just get back to that version of myself, I was really happy in that version. I was really successful. And instead, just don't let that have power. Let the new version of you have power, the new version that you're going to rebuild from. I think you're muted again.
Okay, so the moment when the ground disappears beneath your feet and you're left wondering which way is up, what does it feel like to lose your bearings completely, and why disorientation often the first step toward genuine rebuilding?
Yeah, it definitely feels very disorienting. But I think a lot of us don't allow ourselves to feel that way. I think that our first instinct is to buck up, move on, and get things handled because we're just not taught or allowed to really allow ourselves to feel sort of that disengagement, that discombobulated feeling. And I talk a lot about that in the book. The momentum method that I created, which was built from my own lived experience, it's not built with a panel of experts. It wasn't created with psychologists or experts in a room. It was just me trying to rebuild my life after all of these losses. Really goes through step by step about sort of after you've had that discombobulating feeling, how you can sort of reframe and start to rebuild your life again. And the first step, which I talked about a minute ago, was to hit reset, which is pausing long enough to actually see that you have had a script break, to acknowledge what is weighing on you. And then the step
Mm.
two is to call it like it is, which we talked about, that you have to be able to name the bad parts of what you are feeling. Step three is getting back to you, which is your values and your strengths and your identity. Not the person that you were before, but what your values are now after you've had this script break happen to you. And then the next step is to dare to dream. Sometimes it feels risky and unsafe to dream, and we feel like that's just not in the cards for us anymore, but it's about allowing that. And then the last is just to rewrite your scripts, because if you don't rewrite your scripts, it's going to be rewritten for you.
Miss Andrea, you observe that we often cling to the broken script even after it's clearly failed us. Why do humans hold on to familiar pain or unfamiliar or familiar pain rather than embrace the terror of unknown future?
I think we convince ourselves that that's working for us. I think we convince ourselves that holding on to that is really working for us. That's the script that we've built our life around. That's our talking points. And so we just really hold on to those instead of using that as our launching pad to rebuild our lives.
Mhm. Interesting. The book explores the difference between pain that destroys the pain that transforms. What determines which kind of pain we are experiencing, and can we choose which path it takes?
I don't necessarily have you talk about which pain it is you're feeling, but the feeling of pain is universal with any script break or loss. The loss of a pet can be absolutely as difficult as the loss of a loved one. It's just that with the loss of a loved one, we have a ritual for it. People know what to do, people send flowers. But if you lose, for instance, a pet or you lose a dream that you've been working toward for years and years, we don't have an outlet for that. There's no flowers that go to that, there's no card to send for that. So I think that, anytime we have any disruption, we can reframe and rebuild from that. It's just about knowing that you can and acknowledging what has happened to you instead of just brushing it to the side and then just continuing to live your life like it really didn't happen.
You usually ask, who are you when everything you used to define yourself by is gone? Why is this question both terrifying and liberating? And what does the answer reveal about our true identity?
It is terrifying. It is terrifying. That's really what happened to me. I was working corporate, and after my mother-in-law died in my arms, I went back to work just like I had after I lost my parents and my in-law, and after every failed fertility treatments, and after my husband's had 23 surgeries. After every surgery, I had just sort of gone back. But when she passed away, the old way that I had sort of coped didn't work anymore, and that's when I had to take a real long, hard look at my values and my shift, because it was the first time I'd allowed myself to realize that I wasn't the same person that I was before. And that meant that my values, what I wanted for myself, what I dreamed for myself was all different. And I had never really taken the time to think about that. What I'd always thought I wanted the same things in life. And it wasn't until something forced me to stop. And I realized that just forcing through, like always, wasn't going to work. That I started realizing, okay, my values are really different. And in the book, I actually will there is a step by step process for how to really sit down and journal and talk about what it is that you value now. Because if you ask someone what they value now, they're going to come up with, family and friends, and that's all wonderful. And we do value that. But it takes time and really some insightful looking in yourself to decide what are my extent of my values now? How are they different from what they were before?
Miss Andrea, you noted that crisis often arrives uninvited. Illness, loss, betrayal, failure. If we can control when the script breaks, what can we control in the aftermath?
I know, I wish we could all control when the script breaks. It always happens when you're least expecting it. It always happens at the worst time. A lot of times it culminates and there's many script breaks at once, which can be just devastation after devastation. And, there isn't a way to control that. But what we can control is how we process it afterwards. And a lot of times when something negative happens to you, it's just going to feel like there's just one break after another break after another break. And I think that, just allowing yourself to be like, okay, this is happening to me and it's terrible and I hate it and it's weighing on me and it's not fair. And just allowing yourself to have those real, true feelings, takes a lot of the power away from those script breaks. But I think that, script breaks are going to happen. I'm never going to say that a script break is worse than another. When I left a job back in 2021 because I had a dream of working at Salesforce. And I quit my job to work on getting a job there full time. And I did almost 20 interviews. I networked with countless people. I went to every coffee chat. I went to every happy hour. I had so many Zoom conversations with people that worked there trying to break in, having people look at my resume. I would work so hard for those interviews. It was like I was applying for the police force. I would know everything about that job, front and back, and the department, who the managers were. And I did that for a year. I even became a ranger on their trailhead system, which is kind of like the highest rank of the Salesforce system. And I didn't get any of those jobs. I came for the final round for two, but I lost them to internal candidates. And that was devastating. It was a major devastation in my identity because I sort of had always identified myself as high achieving, high performing. And it was it was just a really difficult script break that, again, there's no card to send someone. People don't really know what to say because it's not one of the typical script breaks that we all face in life.
Miss Andrea, you're always emphasizing that rebuilding forward requires us to stop looking into rear view mirror. What specific particles or practices help someone stop romanticizing the past and start engaging with the present?
Well, we all look at the past, whether it be past relationships, past jobs, with rose colored glasses. It's just sort of human nature that when we get far removed from something, we sort of look back at only the really good parts. So I think that romanticizing who you were before, thinking about, oh, before this happened, I was so happy. Everything was really going my way, even if it really wasn't. So, throughout this book, through all 5 steps of the momentum method, there are journaling prompts. And the journaling prompts aren't something that you'll just do right away. It's something that you'll want to think about and sort of have the book in front of you and maybe take a day and think and write in it as it comes to you. But they allow you to sort of break down what's been going on with you, and they work you to help you rebuild forward with getting back to your values, what they are now, the person that you are now, thinking about what dreams you may have now, and then ultimately rewriting your script for including the values and the person that you are now after the script break. So I think the journaling prompts are really, really helpful for someone who's looking to rebuild.
Very well said. Miss Andrea, the book suggests that rebuilding requires us to choose ourselves in a ways we may never have done before. Why do so many people, particularly caregivers and people pleasers, struggle with this seemingly simple act?
I've been a caregiver my whole life. My parents died when I was 9 months old. My grandparents adopted me. And of course, that meant that they were older. So I worked very hard as and when I was young to never cause problems for them. I just felt like they had been through enough. So I was very careful to never get in trouble, always get good grades. And then that extended when I got older. And of course, as they got older, and I took care of them until they both passed away. Then I helped take care of my father in law when he had cancer, and I took care of my mother in law. We adopted our son when he was 12 years old. He's 17 now. So there was a lot of caregiving with that. And of course, I helped with my husband, who's had 23 surgeries. And I think a lot of times it's women that do that. We sort of take on that caretaking role. And in doing that, you're sort of stacking everything else up, but yourself is at the bottom. But men absolutely do it too. We just let all of the pressures of all of the responsibilities and the roles and just all of the weight that gets put on us just pile up, and we just kind of keep going lower and lower and lower. And one thing that the book talks about is it is okay to make yourself a priority. In fact, it's more than okay, it's crucial. It's really what you have to do to rebuild your life. So take yourself from the bottom and move yourself back up to the top because you deserve it.
Serve it, people. The book challenges the notion that we heal to return to normal. Instead, you suggest we heal to expand, to become larger, more complex, and more capable than we were before. What does an expanded version of yourself look like?
Well, you know what? After my mother-in-law died, I decided to start my own business and start I started writing this book, and I'm a keynote speaker. And I would have never done that before. But something about when she passed away and the old ways of just working through and pretending it didn't happen and keeping all the balls in the air, when that didn't work for me, it caused me to go through the momentum method, although I didn't know it was that at the time because it was just something I was creating myself and working through. And I realized that some of my new values were to get out and not do corporate and work in a job that really helped people and to write a message that really helped people. And I wouldn't have done that without my script break. So I think we have to look at script breaks that way as something that is going to charge us forward, something that's going to make us bigger, make us dream bigger. But we have to allow for that to happen to ourselves.
Miss Andrea, you write about the loneliness and rebuilding, the sense of that no one else can walk this path for you. How do we sit with the loneliness without being consumed by it? And when do we reach out for connection?
I think when you are rebuilding, connection is always going to be really important. Now, your rebuilding journey is very personal, and there are times that it's going to be with a group or with your spouse, and you're going to be doing that together. But certainly, a lot of it is internal work. But I think anytime that you can surround yourself with people that are going to support you, uplift you, bring you up, be there when you're having a hard time without saying, oh, it's going to get better, is really important. I talk in the book about when my good friend Emily, her brother passed away a few years ago, and he was very young, married with two young children, and it was just a freak accident. And when I met with her, I never said things like, it's going to get better. Well, at least tomorrow will get better, blah, blah. I just said, I know, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And then when she said, this is terrible. I can't really do this. And I said, it is terrible. And later on, she told me how much that really meant to her because I was one of the first people that allowed her to actually feel how she was feeling without trying to sugarcoat it, without immediately trying to make it better because she didn't need anybody to make it better. She just wanted someone to support her and listen to her.
Ms. Andrea, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, People, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and my book 101 review in sixth season too, comedy 101 fourth season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 are in fifth season, science 101, text 101 fourth season, and of course, my baby podcast, Review 101, Motivation 101, Spiritual Awakening 101, Entrepreneurship 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Coaching 101, of course, Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Andrea, when you look back on this chapter from the other side, what story do you want to tell? How does framing our suffering as a story we're actively writing change the way we live through it?
Well, I feel like a weight has been lifted off of me for so long. All of these script breaks were just sort of weighing me down, and I felt like I was shrinking. But I finally feel like I am rising, and the weight's been lifted because I feel like I've rebuilt my life.
Indeed, you rebuild your life, and thank you for sharing to the world. And we will learn from it for sure. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever project?
Yes, my
that you're
book
doing
is
right
on
now.
Amazon and is everywhere that books are sold now. So please order it. Connect with me on LinkedIn or my website and let me know what you think about the book. I would love to connect with you. And if your businesses are looking for any keynote speakers, please reach out. I would love to share this message.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Andrea Gash, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to rise. So, Miss Andrea, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you so much. This is wonderful.
Likewise, more to come, people. See you